Hidden error. Usage of spouse is not recognized. Hidden error. Usage of children is not recognized. Bobby Darin was an American singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist and actor of film and television. He performed in a range of music genres, including jazz, pop, rock, roll, folk, swing and country. He started as a songwriter for Connie Francis, and recorded his own first million-seller, Splish Splash, in 1958. This was followed by Dream Lover, Mac the Knife, and Beyond the Sea, which brought him world fame. In 1962, he won a Golden Globe Award for his first film Come September, co-starring his first wife, Sandra Dee. Throughout the 1960s, he became more politically active and worked on Robert F. Kennedy's Democratic presidential campaign. He was present on the night of June 4, 1968, at the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles at the time of Kennedy's assassination. The same year, he discovered that he had been brought up by his grandmother, not his mother, and that the girl he had thought to be his sister was actually his mother. These events deeply affected Darin and sent him into a long period of seclusion. Although he made a successful television comeback, his health was beginning to fail, as he had always expected. Following bouts of rheumatic fever in childhood, this knowledge of his vulnerability had always spurred him on to exploit his musical talent while still young. He died at age 37, following a heart operation in Los Angeles. Early years. Born Walden Robert Cassiter in the East Harlem neighborhood of New York City, Bobby Darin was reared by his maternal grandmother, who he thought was his mother. Darin's birth mother, Vanina Juliet Nina Cassiter, became pregnant with him in the summer of 1935 when she was 18, presumably because of the scandalous nature of out-of-wedlock pregnancies in that era. Nina and her mother hatched a plan to pass her baby off as Nina's younger brother. Years later, when Nina finally told Darin the truth about his upbringing, she refused to reveal the identity of his biological father, and she continued to keep that secret even up until her own death in 1983. Darin's maternal grandfather, Saverio Antonio "Big Sam" Curly Cassiter, was of Italian descent and a wannabe mobster, who died in prison from pneumonia a year before Darin's birth. His maternal grandmother, Vivian Fern Walden, who called herself Polly, was of English ancestry and a vaudeville singer. From his birth, Darin always believed Nina to be his older sister and Polly his mother. But in 1968, when he was 32, Darin finally learned the shocking truth from Nina that she, not Polly, was his mother. Both the true circumstances of his birth and his relationship with Nina reportedly devastated him. By the time he was a teenager, he could play several instruments, including piano, drums, and guitar. He later added harmonica and xylophone. Darin moved to the Bronx early in his life and graduated from the prestigious Bronx High School of Science. In later years, he attributed his arrogance to his experiences at the high school, where he was surrounded by students brighter than himself, who frequently poked fun at him. He enrolled at Hunter College, gravitating to the drama department, and dropped out after 2 semesters to pursue an acting career. Music career. Darin's career took off with a songwriting partnership, formed in 1955 with fellow Bronx High School of Science student Don Kirshner, and in 1956 his agent negotiated a contract with Decca Records. The songs recorded at Decca had very little success. They developed a romantic interest of which her father, who was not fond of Darin, did not approve, and the couple split up. At one point, Darin wanted to elope immediately, and Connie has said that not marrying Darin was the biggest mistake of her life. Darin left Decca to sign with Atlantic Records, Atco subsidiary, where he wrote and arranged music for himself and others. Songs he recorded, such as Harry Warren's "I Found $1 Million Baby," were sung in an Elvis style, which did not suit his personality. Guided by Atlantic's star maker Ahmet Ertegun, Darin's career finally took off in 1958 when he recorded Splish Splash. He co-wrote the song with radio DJ Murray Kaufman after a phone call from his mother, Jean, a frustrated songwriter. Her latest song idea was Splish Splash, Take a Bath. Both Kaufman and Darin felt the title was lackluster, but Darin, with few options, said, "I could write a song with that title." Within 1 hour, Darin had written Splish Splash. The single sold more than 1 million copies. He made another recording in 1958 for Brunswick Records with a band called the Ding Dongs. With the success of Splish Splash, the single was re-released by Atco Records as Early in the Morning, with the band renamed as the Rinky Dinks. It managed to chart, and made it to number 24 in the United States. In 1959, Darin recorded the self-penned Dream Lover, a ballad that became a multi-million seller. With it came financial success and the ability to demand more creative control of his career. So he meant for his That Soul album to show that he could sing more than rock and roll. His next single, Mac the Knife, the standard from Kurt Weill's Threepenny Opera, was given a vamping jazz-pop interpretation. Although Darin was initially opposed to releasing it as a single, the song went to No. 1 on the charts for 9 weeks, sold 2 million copies, and won the Grammy Award for Record of the Year in 1960. Darin was also voted the Grammy Award for Best New Artist that year, and Mac the Knife has since been honored with a Grammy Hall of Fame award. Darin followed Mac with Beyond the Sea, a jazzy English-language version of Charles Trennett's French hit song, La Mer. Both tracks were produced by Atlantic founders Ahmet and Nesu Hirtagun with staff producer Jerry Wexler, and they featured arrangements by Richard Wess. This late 1950s success included Darin setting the all-time attendance record at the Copacabana nightclub in Manhattan and headlining at the major casinos in Las Vegas. In the 1960s, Darin owned and operated, with Terry Melcher, Doris Day's son, a music publishing and production company. He signed Wayne Newton and gave him the song Dankeschön, that became Newton's breakout hit. Darin also was a mentor to Roger McGuinn, who worked for him at Trademark Music and played the 12-string guitar in Darin's nightclub band before forming the Byrds. Additionally, Darin produced Rosie Grier's 1964 LP, Soul City, and Made in the Shade for Jimmy Boyd. In 1962, Darin began to write and sing country music, with hit songs including Things, You're the Reason I'm Living, and 18 Yellow Roses. The latter two were recorded by Capitol Records, which he joined in 1962, before returning to Atlantic 4 years later. Darin left Capitol in 1964. In 1966, he had his final UK hit single, with a version of Tim Harden's If I Were a Carpenter, which peaked at number 9. He performed the opening and closing songs on the soundtrack of the 1965 Walt Disney film That Darn Cat. Things was sung by Dean Martin in the 1967 TV special Movin' with Nancy, starring Nancy Sinatra. Bobby Darin is not related to James Darin. This confusion sometimes arises because their names are pronounced similarly. They are the same age. They both started their careers as teen idols with similarly styled songs. Both later sang some of the same standard pop, jazz ballads, and they are both associated with Gidget. James Darin starred in Gidget films as Gidget's love interest. In real life, Bobby was the love interest. He married Sandra Dee. Sammy Davis, Jr., regarded by many as the greatest entertainer in the world, said that the one person he would never follow on stage was Bobby Darin. Acting career. In the fall of 1959, Darin played Honey Boy Jones in an early episode of Jackie Cooper's CBS military sitcom drama Hennessy, set in San Diego, California. In 1960, he appeared twice as himself in NBC's short-lived crime drama Dan Raven. starring Skip Homer and set on the Sunset Strip of West Hollywood. In the same year, he was the only actor ever to have been signed to 5 major Hollywood film studios. He wrote music for several films in which he appeared. His first major film, Come September, was a teenager-oriented romantic comedy with 18-year-old actress Sandra Dee. They first met during the production of the film, fell in love, and got married soon afterwards. Dee gave birth to a son, Dodd Mitchell Darin, on December 16, 1961. Dee and Darin made a few films together with moderate success. They divorced in 1967. In 1961 he starred in Too Late Blues, John Cassavetes' first film for a major Hollywood studio, as a struggling jazz musician. Writing in 2012, Los Angeles Times critic Dennis Lim observed that Darin was a surprise in his first non-singing role, willing to appear both arrogant and weak. In 1962, Darin won the Golden Globe Award for New Star of the Year actor for his role in Come September. The following year he was nominated for the Golden Globe Award for Best Performance by an Actor in a Motion Picture, Drama in Pressure Point. In 1963, he was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for his role as a shell-shocked soldier in Captain Newman, M.D. At the Cannes Film Festival he won the French Film Critics Award for Best Actor. In October 1964, he appeared as a wounded ex-convict who is befriended by an orphan girl in The John Gilman Story episode of NBC's Wagon Train Western television series. Later years. Now my attitude is very simple. I must do what artistically pleases me. Bobby Darin, 1967 Pop Chronicles interview. Darin's musical output became more folksy as the 1960s progressed, and he became more politically active. In 1966, he had a hit with folk singer Tim Hardin's If I Were a Carpenter, securing a return to the top 10 after a 2-year absence. One song of his, Artificial Flowers, about child labor, however, had a jazzy, big band arrangement, which was a sharp contrast to the tragic theme of the song. Darin traveled with Robert F. Kennedy and worked on the politician's 1968 presidential campaign. He was with Kennedy the day he traveled to Los Angeles on June 4, 1968, for the California primary, and was at the Ambassador Hotel later that night when Kennedy was assassinated. This event, combined with learning about his true parentage, had a deep effect on Darin, who spent most of the next year living in seclusion in a trailer near Big Sur. Returning to Los Angeles in 1969, Darin started Direction Records, putting out folk and protest music. He wrote Simple Song of Freedom in 1969, which was recorded by Tim Hardin, who sang only 3 of the song's 4 verses. Of his first Direction album, Darin said, "The purpose of Direction Records is to seek out statement makers. The album is solely composed of compositions designed to reflect my thoughts on the turbulent aspects of modern society." He later signed with Motown. Beginning on July 27, 1972, he starred in his own television variety show on NBC, Dean Martin Presents The Bobby Darin Amusement Company, which ran for 7 episodes ending on September 7, 1972. Beginning on January 19, 1973, he starred in a similar show on NBC called The Bobby Darin Show. This show ran for 13 episodes ending on April 27, 1973. Darin married Andrea Yeager in June 1973, made television guest appearances, and remained a top drawer in Las Vegas. Other interests. Darin was an enthusiastic chess player. His television show included an occasional segment in which he would explain a chess move. He arranged with the United States Chess Federation to sponsor a Grandmaster tournament, with the largest prize fund in history, but the event was cancelled after his death. Personal life. Bobby Darin married Sandra Dee in 1960. They met while filming Come September. On December 16, 1961, they had a son, Dodd Mitchell Darin. Dee and Darin officially divorced on March 7, 1967. Health. Darin suffered from poor health his entire life. He was frail as an infant and, beginning at age 8, was stricken with recurring bouts of rheumatic fever that left him with a seriously weakened heart. In January 1971, he underwent his first heart surgery in an attempt to correct some of the heart damage he had lived with since childhood, where 2 artificial heart valves were implanted in his heart. He spent most of that year recovering from the surgery. During the last few years of his life, he was often administered oxygen during and after his performances on stage and screen. Death. In 1973, after failing to take antibiotics to protect his heart before a dental visit, Darin developed an overwhelming systemic infection. This further weakened his body and affected one of his heart valves. On December 11, he checked himself into Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles for another round of open-heart surgery to repair the 2 artificial heart valves he had received in January 1971. On the evening of December 19, a 5-man surgical team worked for over 6 hours to repair his damaged heart. Shortly after the surgery ended in the early morning hours of December 20, 1973, Darin died in the recovery room without regaining consciousness. He was 37 years old. There were no funeral arrangements. Darin's last wish in his will was that his body be donated to science for medical research. His remains were transferred to UCLA Medical Center shortly after his death. Legacy. In 1990, singer Paul Anka made the speech inducting Darin into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. In 1999, he was voted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. Songwriter Alan O'Day refers to Darin and his recording of Mac the Knife in the song Rock and Roll Heaven, a tribute to dead musicians, which O'Day wrote shortly after Darin's death. In 1998, PBS aired the documentary Bobby Darin, Beyond the Song, produced by Henry Astor and Jason Silo. In a 2003 episode of the NBC television series American Dreams, Duncan Sheik portrayed Darin and performed Beyond the Sea on American Bandstand. Brittany Snow's character, Meg Pryor, is assigned as Darin's liaison during the show. On May 14, 2007, Darin was awarded a star on the Las Vegas Walk of Stars to honor his contribution to making Las Vegas the entertainment capital of the world, and to acknowledge his reputation as one of the greatest entertainers of the 20th century. The sponsorship fee for his star was raised entirely by fan donations. He also has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Darin had a custom car built called the Dream Car, designed by Andy Didier, which is on display at the St. Louis Museum of Transportation. On December 13, 2009, the Recording Academy announced that Darin would receive a posthumous Lifetime Achievement Award at the 2010 Grammy Awards ceremony. Biopic. In 1986, director Barry Levinson intended to direct a film based on Darin's life, and had begun pre-production on the project by early 1997. He abandoned the project, the rights to which were subsequently bought by actor Kevin Spacey, along with Darin's son, Dodd. The resultant biopic, Beyond the Sea, starred Spacey as Darin, with the actor using his own singing voice for the musical numbers. The film covers much of Darin's life and career, including his marriage to Sandra Dee, portrayed by Kate Bosworth. With the consent of the Darin estate, former Darin manager Steve Blana, and archivist Jimmy Scalia, Beyond the Sea opened at the 2004 Toronto International Film Festival. Although Dodd, Darin, Sandra Dee, and Blana responded enthusiastically to Spacey's work and the film was strongly promoted by the studio, Beyond the Sea received mixed to poor reviews upon wide release, and box office results were disappointing. Some critics praised Spacey's performance, largely owing to his decision to use his own singing voice. Spacey was nominated for the Golden Globe Award for Best Actor, Motion Picture Musical or Comedy, but the award that year went to Jamie Foxx for his portrayal of Darin's musical contemporary Ray Charles. Discography. That's all. This is Darin. Darin at the Copa. You're the reason I'm living. If I were a carpenter. Inside Out. Bobby Darin sings Dr. Dolittle. Filmography. Shadows. Pepe. Come September. Too Late Blues. State Fair. Hell is for Heroes. If a Man Answers. Pressure Point. Captain Newman, MD. That Funny Feeling. Gunfight in Abilene. Stranger in the House. The Happy Ending. Happy Mother's Day. Love George. Books. Dodd Darin and Maxine Pietro. Dream Lovers. The Magnificent Shattered Lives of Bobby Darin and Sandra Dee. New York. Warner Books 1994. ISBN 0-446-51768-2. David Evanier. Roman Candle. The Life of Bobby Darin. Albany, New York. Sunny Press 2010. ISBN 9781438434582.